G'day mate, Matty Graham here, author of Paddle Stronger. Should you be strength training? This is a question I get quite a lot, and I just want to dig into this a little bit more deeper, rather than just saying a blanket yes, because what else would a strength coach and someone who wrote a book about strength training say, and provide you a bit of a framework so you can make your own informed decisions about whether or not you should strength train. The first question I want you to ask yourself, are you a recreational athlete, a competitive athlete, or an elite athlete? This will help make a big chunk of your decisions for you. Let's start over here with the elite athlete, because that's an easy one. If you're an elite athlete, you should be strength training, or you should start strength training immediately, because the research shows quite clearly strength training improves paddle performance. So that's an easy one. Now let's jump to the next one. A little bit more complicated, a competitive athlete. The first question you should ask yourself if you're a competitive athlete is, are you over the age of 30? If yes, if you answered yes to that, then I'd highly recommend you start strength training. And here's why. It's all to do with the research around the reduction or the loss of muscle mass and the associated strength that that muscle mass loss has as we age. This really starts to accelerate over the age of 25 to 30, and then accelerates as we age from there. We lose muscle mass and we lose the associated strength. So what we want to do is we want to get ahead of that curve to preserve muscle mass as long as we can, because with more muscle mass comes more strength. With more strength becomes more the ability to generate more force and on-water speed and power. What if you're under the age of 30 as a competitive athlete? The next question I'd ask is, do you get regular niggly injuries, especially those overuse injuries? If the answer is yes, then I'd highly recommend you do strength training. And this has to do with the research around strength training being one of the best modalities out there for preventing injury and overuse injury. And this often has to do with the concept around sports filling up different buckets. So if you can imagine, in the sport of paddling, we use a lot of the same muscle groups and the same movement patterns over and over and over again. That bucket becomes really full. Other buckets that don't get used, other movement patterns, muscle groups, energy systems, they become really empty, and that's where our overuse injuries come from. So we get these imbalances. So strength training helps make those buckets that we use a lot really strong and bigger, so we can fill them up as much as we like with on-water training, but then it helps fill up the buckets that don't get used that often during our on-water training, so that we become more balanced and we don't get those overuse injuries. Now, if you don't get overuse injuries, then potentially, and you're under the age of 30, there's potentially no reason to strength train, and you might be better off spending that time on water or recovering from your on-water training until you get to that age. However, there would be one other thing, is, do you enjoy / want to do gym-based strength training? If it's a yes, well, that's an easy one, go and do it. That leads us to our final population here, is our recreational athlete. First question I would ask a recreational athlete is, do they enjoy or want to do strength training? If it's a yes, obviously go and do it, because there's a lot of great benefits either from a performance and from a health perspective. And if they answer no, they don't want to do it, then they can start working themselves through this flow diagram to see where they end up. The final thing is, if you are doing strength training and you really don't like it, or you really don't have time for it, then you can start prioritizing what you should do by going back through this flow chart. So hopefully that's a little bit of an insight to help provide a framework for you to make your decisions about whether or not you should be strength training or how much emphasis to put on it. If you've got any questions, let me know, but get out there and train hard, but most importantly, train smart and paddle stronger.